Hey there, aspirants. Welcome to this session. In this session, I will take you through a discussion of all the questions that were presented in the actual IPM 2025 English section. Okay, so IPM 2025 that was conducted on the 12th of May this year contained all the MCQs in this section of the exam. So here is the English or the verbal section, and I'll take you through each of the questions and also tell you what the correct responses were. Okay, so please stay with me till the end, and I hope this session will give you an insight into the kind of questions that are presented and how you can base your practice on them. So here we go. Now the first question is from this passage. So let me read out the directions and then I'll take you through the passage. Read the following passage and choose the answer that is closest to each of the questions that are based on the passage. So the directions are clear and simple, and here we go with the first paragraph of this passage. Meta is recalibrating content on its social media platforms as the political tide has turned in Washington, with Mark Zuckerberg announcing last week that his company plans to fire its US fact-checkers. Fact-checking evolved in response to allegations of misinformation and is being watered down in response to accusations of censorship. So this part is important. We'll come back to it later. Social media does not have solutions to either. So this part or the sentence is also of essence. Go back to the first part where the author begins with telling us what Meta is doing. Meta, which is the new name for Facebook, is recalibrating content on its social media platforms. Why is it? As the political tide has turned in Washington DC and Mark Zuckerberg has announced in its wake that his company plans to fire all its US fact checkers. And what is fact checking and how did it develop? So the author tells us that fact checking, now that is something very clear and simple, and I don't think you need any explanation or clarification as to what it means. When it evolved or how it evolved is what this sentence gives us. In response to allegations or accusations of misinformation and is being watered down in response to accusations of censorship. Now, social media does not have solutions to either of these problems is what the author of this text has an opinion on. Community review introduced by Elon Musk at X and planned by Zuckerberg for Facebook and Instagram is not a significant improvement over fact-checking. Having Washington lean on foreign governments over content moderation does not benefit free speech. Yet, that is the nature of social media beast designed to amplify bias. So the author tells us that keeping everything in perspective, the bottom line is what he actually ends this paragraph with, that the nature of social media beast is what's given previously, that having Washington lean on foreign governments over content moderation does not benefit free speech, and in spite of this, social media is designed to amplify bias or prejudice and it does not help, but then that's how the situation is. Information and misinformation continue to jostle on social media at the mercy of user discretion. You may be aware of it. Social media now has enough control over all other forms of media to broaden its reach. Okay. It is the connective tissue for mass consumption of entertainment. So it connects everything, and alternative platforms are reworking their engagement with social media. Technologies are shaping up to drive this advantage further through synthetic content targeted precisely at its intended audience. Meta's algorithm will now play up politics because it is the flavor of the season. Okay. So all this is information that we will need to refer to when we come to questions. The Achilles' heel of social media is informed choice, which could turn against information. The author mentions that the Achilles' heel. What does Achilles' heel mean? Achilles' heel refers to the most vulnerable part of something or someone. And here the reference is to the Achilles' heel or the weakest point of social media. What is it? The author says it is informed choice which could turn against information. Its move away from content moderation is driven by the need to be more inclusive, yet unfiltered content can push users away from social media towards legacy forms that have better moderation systems in place. So, the kind of information we get without any filter, without any control or restriction is what the author says can push users away from social media into legacy forms. So, what are those legacy forms? We'll get to know later. Lawmakers across the world are unlikely to give social media a free run. So, the author says that when unfiltered content, content that does not come with any kind of restriction or hold, can push users or will start pushing users away from social media towards legacy forms. These legacy forms have better moderation systems in place, and lawmakers are unlikely to give social media a free run. So, this is where the hold will be, even if Donald Trump is working on their case. Protections have either been in place across jurisdictions over misinformation. These may be difficult to dismantle even if the Republicans pull US-owned social media companies further to the right. Media consumption is, in essence, evidence-based judgment that mediums must adapt to. Content moderation, not free speech, is the adaptation mechanism. Musk and Zuckerberg are not exempt. So, even these two people, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, are not exempt. Okay, fine. Now, we come to the questions, and as I mentioned, we'll go to specific parts where you will get clarity on either to eliminate a choice or to narrow down to a correct choice. Technologies are enabling social media to do what? Now, for this, we'll go to the second paragraph. Okay, here it is. Information and misinformation continue to jostle on social media at the mercy of user discretion, and social media has enough control over all other forms of media to broaden its reach. It is a connective tissue for mass consumption of entertainment, and alternative platforms are reworking their engagement with social media. So, it's like social media has become the be all end all of everything. Now, look at the choices. Technologies are enabling social media to do what? Is it to accept the current trends as emphasized by algorithms? Is it to understand that algorithms cannot control its content? Is it to readjust its interaction with competitors, or is it to enlarge its sphere of influence and persuasion? Now, we read that social media has enough control over all other forms of media to broaden its reach. So, this should give you the answer, to enlarge its sphere of influence and persuasion. So, we go with this. Now, 3 can be eliminated easily because it says readjust its interaction with competitors, and this is kind of out of scope. Understand that algorithms cannot control its content was not mentioned anywhere in that portion of the text, and accept the current trends as emphasized by algorithms also is off the mark. Okay. So, here we have option 4, the fourth choice as relevant for this question. The second one. The writer argues that social media, social media what? Flourishes because it can publish any material. Social media remains unaffected by global debates amongst lawmakers on misinformation. 3, has become the preferred way to access entertainment. Or 4, is in a difficult position because it cannot adapt to new policies. Now, we can eliminate 4 because it says something which we did not find in the passage, and if it says it is in a difficult position, we did not read anything of this sort, and the reason it gives is because it cannot adapt to new policies. Now, this is not right at all. So, here also we have to refer to the second paragraph. Okay. It is a connective tissue for mass consumption of entertainment. Mass consumption of entertainment, and alternative platforms are reworking their engagement with social media. Technologies are shaping up to drive this advantage further through synthetic content targeted precisely at its intended audience. Meta's algorithm will now play up politics also. Why? Because it is a flavor of the season. So the author says that anything that appeals to the audience, social media platforms start choosing that kind of content to project, and Meta will not be any exception to it. So Meta's algorithm also will play up politics. Why? Because it is the flavor of the season. People are interested in that. So the connective tissue for mass consumption of entertainment and alternative platforms are doing something so that their engagement with social media can also be reshaped. So, can we say that the writer argues that social media flourishes because it can publish any material? Now, because it can publish any material is the reason why it flourishes cannot be justified or cannot be considered as what the author has tried to present. Remains unaffected by global debates amongst lawmakers on misinformation has not been mentioned in that part. Has become the preferred way to access entertainment precisely. Okay, so that is why all that the author mentions about Meta playing up politics, because it's the flavor of the season, and everything about mass entertainment is something that we can keep in mind to choose the third choice as the suitable one for this question. Okay. Question number 3. The inherent downside associated with social media is that. So, what is the disadvantage of social media? Is it that it reinforces existing objectivity among the users? The authors mentioned bias, isn't it? Where did he do that? He says, talks about bias somewhere. Yeah, yet that is the nature of the social media beast. The author describes it as beast, uncontrolled, designed to amplify or increase bias. So, we cannot go with the first choice. Okay, we cannot say the inherent downside associated, the disadvantage or the bad point is that it reinforces existing objectivity. No, it promotes bias. So, this goes. Is that it creates and spreads much innate and acquired prejudice. Exactly from whatever we read and I pointed it out to you. Okay, so this is clear and this is the correct choice. 3. Does not address the problem of the digital divide is not what we can consider the innate downside of social media. Is that it cannot address the problem of the digital divide. That's not under consideration at all and cannot be considered as an innate weakness. Results in unremitting expansion of freedom of expression. That is not something that can be considered a disadvantage. Okay. The next one. Question number 4. Social media has succeeded in what? In becoming independent of other media. What did we read? We read in the second paragraph that it is a connective tissue for mass consumption of entertainment and alternative platforms are reworking their engagement with social media. So, based on that, can we say that it is becoming independent of other media? Exactly the opposite. The second one, ignoring technology and artificial content also doesn't match up. Finding alternative means for fact checking. What does the author talk about fact checking? The author says that fact checking evolved in response to allegations of misinformation and is being watered down in response to accusations of censorship. Social media does not have the solutions to either. Okay, fact checking or anything else. Okay, so can we say it is finding alternative means for fact checking when it cannot? The author clearly says it does not have any solution for either of these, one of which includes fact checking. Then this is also to be eliminated, and we are left with 4, and we have arrived at it both logically and of course keeping the information that the author has given to us in that paragraph in mind. Controlling other media that depend on it. Okay, so from the second paragraph, we find that social media has successfully started controlling other media that depend on it, and which is why the author says that it is a connective tissue for mass consumption of entertainment. Question number 5 now. The author or the writer implies that what? Older forms of media will regain users because of their controls. Social media's innate strength is the user's ability to fact check. Social media can never be discarded by its users, or uncensored content will always have more appeal than controlled content. Well, the writer does not imply that uncensored content will have more appeal than controlled content. He does talk about it. He says that the Achilles' heel of social media is informed choice, which could turn against misinformation. So, informed choice could turn users against misinformation. Its move away from content moderation is driven by the need to be more inclusive, yet unfiltered content can push users away from social media towards legacy forms that have better moderation systems in place. Lawmakers are unlikely to give social media a free run, even if somebody as important or as powerful as Donald Trump is working on their case, and protections have already been put in place across jurisdictions over misinformation. This may be difficult to dismantle. So, can we say that uncensored content will have more appeal than controlled content? Now, this is something that we can eliminate based on the information in the paragraph that I read out for you. Okay, so it goes. Can we say, what's given in the third option, social media can never be discarded by its users? Now, this is something very extreme, and the word never should help us eliminate this choice. Okay. The second one says social media's innate strength is the user's inability to fact check. Again, we cannot consider this as the social media's innate strength. Okay. So, this goes. One is what we go for then, and it has information that, or it has what the author implies, older forms of media will regain users because of their controls, and the second paragraph talks exactly of these things. Okay, so protections have already been put in place across jurisdictions over information, and the author implies that, okay, he means to say that older forms of media will regain users because of their controls, which these platforms are lacking in. Okay, the sixth one now. The writer's conclusion is that information available on social media is linked to what? Is it linked to the global legal system's support of free speech? Is it linked to the need for deregulation, the policies of the governments in power, or the individual's right to free speech? The writer concludes with something. On some note, I'll take you back to it. And can we say that the conclusion is that information available on social media is linked to the global legal systems, the need for deregulation, or whatever? So, go back to it, the last part where the author says, media consumption is in essence evidence-based judgment that mediums must adapt to. Content moderation and not free speech is the adaptation mechanism. So, what has the author focused on? Moderation of content and not free speech. And Musk and Zuckerberg are not, even these people are not exempt. So, if even these people are not exempt, then what do we choose? Can we go with the first one, which says the global legal system support of free speech is what information available in social media is linked to? We cannot. The need for deregulation also is not correct, and the individual's right to free speech also we cannot go for. It is 3. Now, we have to refer to some other parts, especially the information in the first and the second paragraphs. Okay, and these paragraphs have content that will help you. So, the author says that the political tide has turned in Washington with Mark Zuckerberg announcing last week that his company plans to fire its US fact checkers. And also, social media does not have solutions to either whatever has been mentioned previously, and community review that was introduced by Elon Musk at Twitter or X, or which was previously Twitter, and planned by Zuckerberg for Facebook and Instagram, is not a significant improvement over fact checking. Okay, so this line is important. Having Washington lean on foreign governments over content moderation does not benefit free speech. Yet, that is the nature of the social media, of course. Okay, so we can effectively say that the writer towards the end says that information that's available freely on social media is linked to the policies of the governments in power. Okay, and this is why we go with 3 as the correct choice. Okay, now